and stumbled into this property. I was looking for 4-bedroom property specifically. So on this property, 4804 Crescent Court Southeast, Owens Crossroads, Alabama. Let's see, how's the schools area? Great school district. You got 8 and 9, so this is a really nice area. Let's look at the street view. Really, really solid area in the cul-de-sac. It's like all the houses look great, so it's pretty solid neighborhood here. So let's take a quick look at the condition of the property. Oh, there's some floor plans. Let's see. Garage, kitchen room, dining room, living room. This is a study right here. Let's see if they count that as a bedroom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Huh, interesting. The only thing I'm thinking about here is that can I potentially consider this study as a bedroom? And if not, what can I do to turn it into an official bedroom? So it might count as a 5-bedroom. So it's just a couple of thoughts that come into my head as I went through it. The kitchen looks great. Flooring looks great. You might not even have to paint this house, but we're going to set aside some budget to paint the place. This carpet looks pretty gross right here. You see it's all black. I would probably replace it with LVP. But it looks like there was only... So that's 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. This is carpet, 4 bedrooms. So maybe I'll just replace the flooring on roughly around half the square footage as a general estimate, because this must be the study. So you could probably just enclose this wall right here and turn it into a bedroom, because you got 1 egress with a door to the hallway, and you got another egress with the window. You just want to make sure you check the height of the window to make sure it's within compliance and within code. So that could definitely be an additional bedroom. So good to know. Let's keep on going. So the next thing we want to do is I want to take a quick look at the crime score. So I go to topapp.com, tophap.com, and I'm going to the neighborhood section right here. And see if there's anything about crime score. Oh, there it is. As expected, the crime score is 48 here, 48 out of 100. I live in an area that's about like an 80. So this is a really, really safe neighborhood. Good to know. So that passes my criteria of at least just screening a neighborhood really quick to see if that's something I'd be interested in. Now, next thing you want to do is you want to Google HUD FMR. And our goal here is to grab the fair market rent. And you can come down and just access small area FMRs, look up FY 2024 FMRs, go to the state and then select the county, just in case you don't know what county it is. If you're on a Redfin website and you just do control find on Madison County, you'll find it. And from that point onwards, you can do and grab the fair market rents by bedroom, by zip code. As you can see, this property is in 35763. And you see right here, 35763, the FMR for a 4-bedroom home here is $2,900, right? Keep that in mind. That is the rent ceiling. So I'm going to write this one down for a 4-bed. This is 4804, 35763, 35763. I don't know what the FMR for a 5-bed is, but let's see if this is even worth my time so I can decide whether or not I even want to give them a call. 35763, 4-bed, and that was $2,900. Okay. The next thing you want to do is you want to get the market rents for a 4-bedroom. And in this scenario, I'm also going to get the market rents for a 5-bedroom, just because I saw that there was a potentially easy way to convert that additional bedroom. Okay. So when you go to affordablehousing.com, you go to the owner section, you go to market rent estimator, plug in the address, plug in a bedroom count, and you're going to see 4 numbers. The number we care most about is on the far right, where you see that for 23 units, the average rent for a point within a 0.67 mile radius is $2,168, $2,168. So let's make sure we write that down. 2,168. The zip is 2222, 2227, and then 1983. Now, in this scenario, I'm also going to see if there is a lift to go from a 4-bed to a 5-bed in this area. It goes up to 2519. Okay, good to know. There is a jump there, 2519. And let's get these rents to 2528 within the zip. 2728 again within the city, and 2435. Now you can see that the radius expanded to 4.91 miles. So you have to go across a bigger radius to get more properties to support the market rents for a 5-bedroom property. So, but it's good to know that if I do want to turn to a 5-bedroom, I might underwrite the property using 2519. Now, in this scenario on a 4-bedroom, if I leave everything as is, I will underwrite the deal using 2168 as my run. I might go up to 2200 just to give myself a slight boost there, but that's pretty much it. And you have to take the lower of the two, right? So here's the thing. If you underwrite this deal using 2900, you would be grossly overestimating the rent that you can get. Why? Because of the rent reasonableness test. Now, if you remember when I looked at the other day, when you looked at the Decatur properties that I looked at in my prior live, let's see, I can pull that up for you. Let's see, I can pull that up for you. Rent reasonableness. Reasonable. I'm gonna look for that on the other side. All right, let's keep going for this one, just so we can keep going. I'll find it right after this. So we're going to use the rent reasonableness because it essentially says that even though the rent ceiling is $2,900, you cannot charge more rent to a resident than what the market deems is reasonable simply because they are a voucher holder for the obvious reasons. So let's go ahead and plug in some numbers here. We have a purchase price of $349,900. What are our taxes? Taxes is $101 a month. 101. Our insurance is $271. So it equals 271. I'm going to multiply that by 1.2 because usually that's an estimate for properties where, how I'd say it, that's usually an estimate for properties that are primary residence. So you have to add a premium because generally insurance policies for investment properties cost more money. Okay. All right. So then on that point going forward, we have a 10% set aside of the rent each month for maintenance, meaning it's either preventative maintenance or we assume something eventually breaks the home. Here in Huntsville, I got a property manager for 8%. So I'm going to leave that 8%. This is a really nice home. So I'm going to assume if someone gets it, they are going to want to stay there for a long time. So I'm going to lower my vacancy to 3%. And that's based on my understanding of the school district that we're in, which seems to be much better with a bunch of 8s and 9s and very low crime. So it's a neighborhood that people might want to live for a really long time because it's a really, really great property. Okay. So going forward, we're going to assume that for this property, we're going to put 25% down on this property. And our principal, let me put this over to Instagram so you guys see it. Our principal on the finance amount is going to equal to the purchase price, subtract the entry cost, and that's how much you're financing. Roughly right now, an investment loan, best case scenario is probably 8% interest. All right. If I'm able to get what I said earlier for 2168, so $2,200 in rent, what is this going to result, right? Let's make sure we punch in a rehab at the same time so that we can see what we need to do. Now, for every property, I always assume there's some issues with the roof. So I'm gonna set aside $1,500 for the roof. Just remember when Alabama, sometimes there's a lot of severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, etc. So I just want to be a little conservative. I'm set aside $500 to keep the landscaping clean while I am renovating the property and just do some general upkeep. I'm going to put aside some money for painting the place at 2359, and that's going to be estimated at $50 a square foot to repaint the entire house. Assuming I even need it, I might not even need all of that, right? And then I'm going to assume that I need to replace the flooring on the bedroom. So I'm going to assume that's about half or a third of square footage. So let's be a little bit more aggressive here because I already set aside a lot of money for painting. And that's going to be $780, 786 square feet times $8 for my flooring rehab. I am going to replace the toilet with a high pressure flush toilet for 2 of the bathrooms at the minimum. And right now, I'm assuming I'm not adding extra bedrooms, so I'm not going to do anything yet. So I don't need to change any water here because someone's living there right now. I'm assuming there's no termite issues. So that gives me roughly about a $20,000 rehab, $19,500 on this property. This results currently, assuming my closing cost about 2.5%, my renovation is 19,000, my down payment to sell is 87 grand. This gives me a negative cash flow of $613, which obviously in my scenario is not good. So let's write down these scenarios and we'll go through it. So you can figure out, hey, for every property, right, there is a set of terms that can make it a deal or a purchase price, obviously. So at 2,200, that's a negative 613. And my cash on cash return is 6.4% cash on cash return. This is assuming a roughly $350,000 purchase price and a 19,500 rehab. Okay. All right. The next step I want to do is, well, what if I turn this into a 5-bedroom home? Let's do 2,520 as my rent. Just be super conservative here. 2,520. Okay. At 2,520, this is still not a deal. Why? Because I'm still losing $361 a month minus 361. Was the loss minimized? Yes. But just remember that does not affect my cash on cash return yet because I still need to increase the amount of money to turn that extra study into a bedroom. And I'm just going to say that's going to be an extra $10,000. It's not like a full garage conversion, which might be more expensive. So I'm just going to add in $10,000 to get myself the extra rent, right? You have to make some assumptions with some common sense. You can't just say like, hey, I'm just going to get the 5-bedroom rent. You have to invest money into the property to turn it into a 5-bedroom home. So that's why I have an additional $10,000 to frame out the extra room and get some permits and stuff like that if I need to. If it's easier, great. But if it's not, then I was at budget enough. But this will result in a negative 3.44 cash on cash return. That was also a negative 6.4% return. So now you can play around with scenarios and like, well, what would make this a deal, right? So the first thing I want to do is I want to mess around with the purchase price. What if I'm still a 25/20 rent, right, for my property? But what purchase price would I have to buy it at, assuming 25% down, assuming 8% interest rate to make this a at least 10% interest? I mean 10% cash on cash return. So let's play around with the purchase price here. We're only going to mess with one variable so we can stay on top of it. So when you lower the property purchase price to 300 grand, still not a deal. Lower to 200 grand, now it's a 6.6% return. What if it's 150? Well, that's a great deal. 175. All right. So 170, that would result in a 9.9% return. So now I know, hey, if I find a 5-bedroom property or a 4-bedroom property with a rehab of 29,500 that can get me to a 25/20 in rent, well, it will be a slam dunk deal for me if I can buy the property $170,000 because that results in a 9.9% cash on cash return with a $629 cash flow. Okay, all right. But what's the chances of the owner selling it to me for $170,000 when they're listed for $350,000? Very low. But why do we do this exercise? We did this exercise so you can understand what is my buy box for each area so that next time you see a property for $170,000 in this area, you're like, oh, I got to jump on that right away because I remember analyzing deals in this market, in the zip code, in the city, and I want to buy that property next time something like that pops up. So this is how you become efficient with your time and avoid burnout. It's because once you do it one time, well, you remember it and you determine your buy box and your criteria for this area. So you never touch that property unless you know for sure it's a deal. Now, the other way to go about it on the creative finance world is, well, you can go ahead and try to figure out if you can buy the property subject to or see if the owner owns it outright. So when I go to PropStream and I plug in the address, you can click on the details section. And let's see if there is a underlying loan that you can take over subject to the existing mortgage. This property looks like it's financed, but I don't see any details about the property. Is there any loans? I don't see on MLS details. There is a first mortgage right here. They're listed. There is a loan that they took out for $180,000 180,775. 180,775. Hold on one second. 180. Oops. 180,775. And they got this loan. What was the day they got the loan? They got this loan on, assuming 30 years ago, they got it on April 1st, 2012. April 1st, 2012. And the interest rate on his loan, you can see right here, is 3.89%. 3.89%. And let me see what the balance is right now. Assuming it's been 2012. So I want to get my remaining balance. So 2012, right now we're in 2024. That's 12 years. So $132,000. Okay. So what I'm going to do is equals the purchase price minus the down payment minus 132,131.09. And I'm going to go back up here and put in the sub 2 loan, which is 187.75 at 3.89%. And this was started at 4/1/2012. And this new seller finance deal, and just to catch everybody up to speed on what I'm doing here, is I am trying to figure out how much equity is in the deal on this property. 349,000. 349,900, excuse me. All right. So there are 4 components to this property right now. One is I'm going to tell the seller, well, Mr. Seller, if I can give you the price that you want, would you give me the terms that I need to make the deal work? So how does that work, right? You can start with a 25% down payment, the existing loan that you'd be taking over sub 2, which means that you're not assuming the loan, you're buying a project subject to, and then you're having the seller finance their equity portion for the remaining balance. So that's why this secondary loan here, that the seller finance piece, is going to be equals to seller price, the selling price minus the down payment minus the remaining mortgage balance, which we calculated earlier, of $132,000. So you're asking the seller at the end of the day to finance another $130,000, and you're trying to figure out what terms will make it a deal for you. And right now, using the best terms possible at 0% interest rate for that seller finance piece, that's only a 3.35% return. Well, what can I do to make it a deal? What if I lower my down payment to 10%? Now I got 349,900, and my loan balance is still 182. Doesn't work. It does not work, unfortunately. Or I turn it to 5%. Doesn't work because my balances keep going up. Yeah, the problem is that you're paying too much money for this property. So even on a creative deal, this is still not a deal, unfortunately. Well, at least we know. Well, what if I turn this? What if I cash and cash return is so low because I was turning the extra bedroom into a 5th bedroom for $10,000, and now I have to reduce my rent again, right? If I'm removing that $10,000 to turn it back into a 4-bedroom, but now I'll be losing money. So at the end of the day, this does not work, and you can tell why, right? When you went through the logic of the deal, we needed the purchase price to be $170,000 for us to make money, assuming it was an 8% interest rate. Now, even though we lowered the interest rate of the one of the loans to 4% and the other loans to 0%, the problem is that we're still buying at the property at almost twice the amount of value that we would have done or we were willing to pay it at. So even if we got a sub 2 loan at 3.89% and we got a seller to finance the rest of his piece at 0%, it's not a deal for us personally. However, if you really believe that this is an area where you are going to see a lot of appreciation, hey, maybe this might be a deal for you. So a lot of folks, like in California, they buy properties for appreciation. And they say sometimes, like, hey, if I could just break even on a property, that's good enough for me because I know this area is going to continue growing. So you are in great schools. So maybe you can make it work. Now, again, this is not solicitation for any investments. This is not investment advice, but these are the scenarios that you had to go through and ask yourself, like, okay, would I be willing to buy this property if I got X and X terms for this purchase price? And the terms usually matter the most. So that's what I want to go through with all of you today. This is day 131. We're just going to keep going live every single day, and we're going to keep it up, because this is what we're all doing together. And I hope today you would have learned something, meaning you can copy my homework essentially. All you need to do is analyze the same property that I did today using the same spreadsheet. You can DM me on Instagram at investwithkenthe with your email, and my team will be sure to send you the underwriting spreadsheet. I've been very fortunate to have received multiple spreadsheets from other people, and I've been able to modify it to kind of fit my own underwriting approach. So that has worked out really well for me. And I'd be glad to share that with you, because if you start uploading your own analysis onto your own YouTube channel, you're going to be able to create an undeniable track history for yourself, so that when the time comes and let's say a partner asks you, why do you think this is a deal?